going on, everyone? Cabana Greg here, and today's video is a special one because I've been trying to make this for a while, haven't had that much time to do it. It's just me talking about Switch. I finally bought a Switch, didn't think I was gonna do it. I had a Wii U for like 2 months and got rid of it immediately because there was just no support for it whatsoever. So naturally I was hesitant towards buying another Nintendo product, another product that may or may not get the support it needs. But I saw there was a good deal, picked this guy up, and I had some things to say about it. So first things first, Nintendo made the Switch obviously to do two main things: to play as a handheld device that you could just kind of hold in your hands and play on the go, and one that you can put into a dock and it effectively acts as a console. So this is a handheld portable console, right? And Nintendo set out with that goal in mind to make this essentially, and I think that what they set out to do, they achieved. I think that the act of putting this guy into the dock, playing it on a TV, and then, oh, I have to go somewhere, oh, I have to leave this room because someone else wants to use the TV, and pulling the device out of the dock and then using it in handheld mode works stupidly well. Like, moving past that, let's talk about the Switch, the build quality. So on the front here, you've got a nice big old LCD. It's a plastic screen, so just be mindful of that. There's no tempered glass at all when you pull this thing out of the box. So the first thing I naturally did was I bought a screen protector, slapped that thing on before I did anything else with this device. The actual housing is plastic itself. Plastic! There was one thing though, as soon as I bought the Switch, that I kind of discovered. As maybe you can tell from this angle, I don't know if you can, but my Switch is a little warped, and I'll punch in on this in a second just so you can kind of see. You really have to look at it from a specific angle to see this, so I did a lot of research, and people were like, the dock is overheating and it's causing the switches to warp, and it's bullshit. This thing isn't warping from the dock necessarily, it's just a manufacturer's defect. The Switch doesn't produce enough heat for this thing to actually like misshape itself, so freaked out for a good 48 hours, and then after I realized, hey, this probably isn't likely, I just kind of set it aside. Build quality, nothing really special there, and I'll go into the Droidcons in a second, but the thing I really want to talk about that I'm not so crazy about is battery life. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Nintendo set out with the goal in mind of making this a portable console, right? So of course this thing's going to draw a lot of power because it's trying to run these very high performing games. So naturally the battery life is a big concern, and I don't think it has the best battery life. I mean, I remember I played about 3 hours of Zelda on this thing, and 3 hours is fine, but I travel a lot, so I need something that can keep me going for longer than 3 hours. And I don't know if you play like maybe a less demanding game, if you're gonna get better battery performance or whatnot, but 3 hours for Zelda is just it's not enough. What I wound up doing, and I highly recommend you guys do this too, but for my line of work, I actually found it necessary to buy one of these portable power packs. Portable power pack, portable power block, I don't know what it's really called. But here, I bought this portable power pack from Anchor. It was about 30 bucks. If you want a spring for the next one up, I think it's about 50 bucks. But essentially, this is all you'll ever need, and for me personally, this is all I need for both my jobs and for the Switch. I mean, it's gonna give you, I think, roughly around 3 extra hours of battery life, so any trip I take or whatever, it's gonna give me enough time with the Switch. So I highly recommend that if you like to travel a lot, or you always like to play on the go, if that's like your main way to play, you're gonna need a power pack for sure. Alright, so now I just want to talk briefly about handheld mode. As you can tell, the Switch is very flat. It's a very flat device. There's nothing going on over here. And yes, the Vita is a flat handheld as well. I know that. At least the Vita has like little grooves and concave areas to kind of make holding the device a little bit better for longer play times. The Switch, you really got nothing going on over here. Your fingers are just kind of all over the place. Nintendo and other third-party companies, they make grips that extend out, and you can kind of just hold on to this as if it's a big controller. I don't really care. I think that it's fine playing it handheld mode just the way it is. I know plenty of buddies of mine that have Switches that don't like to play handheld mode very often, and then I think, well, what's the point of the Switch then? Switch's handheld mode, it's fine. It's comfortable enough. I think if you're playing the Switch for the very first time in handheld mode, it's an adjustment for sure, especially if you're coming from like the DS or the DS XL, where basically the clamshell design of it, there are places to hold on to the DS that's comfortable. This doesn't have that clamshell design, so it's more or less just holding onto an iPad for hours, basically. And as you can see on the bottom, Nintendo went with a very nice traditional USB-C. So now I'm gonna just talk about the Joy-Cons, so I'm gonna take them off. Button layout. I think playing with the Joy-Cons in handheld mode is great. You can even play with these things just holding them in your hand. It's really cool. The only issue I really have with these guys is when, or if you are forced to play a game just with one. The buttons are stiffly positioned, especially when you're just kind of gripping it like this. Even with the attachment that slides on to the actual Joy-Cons, it still feels pretty stiff. And I've actually found that for me, I like playing with the blue one solo as opposed to playing with the red one solo, and that's just because of the way that the analog sticks are positioned. Now, actually, let's talk about the analog sticks for the Joy-Cons. They are fine. I think that if you're trying to play more games like Bayonetta, or eventually Dark Souls Remastered comes to the platform, these probably won't be enough to cut it for those games. That's mostly it with the Joy-Cons. But honestly, I do like playing with these things. I do like them a lot. And they are really versatile. I think that's the biggest thing I can say about the Joy-Cons is they're very versatile. Like I said, you can just play it solo. You can slide on this additional clip and it adds more buttons to the top, or actually it brings out the buttons here. You can slide them into a dock. Gotta say one thing about the dock though, not super comfortable, but I like it. And if you aren't considering buying a Pro controller when you buy a Switch, I think that you will be totally fine just using the grip or the dock for the Joy-Cons. Alright, so before I talk about the things that I really want to see on the Switch in the future and just minor things that I noticed just playing the Switch for a few hours, I want to talk about the Pro controller, because this thing's 70 bucks. It's 70 bucks. And maybe it's just me forgetting how much controllers cost, because I think the last controller I bought was in college, my PS4. I have 4 PS4 controllers, because that was my main console that I used in college. But I think I bought a controller for that thing like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I have no recollection of how much that cost at the time. But when I bought this shit and realized it was 70 bucks, I was like, this thing better be good. I like this controller. In fact, I found myself wanting to play in dock mode more often than not, just so I have an excuse to play with this thing. I mean, sure, you can put the Switch on its kickstand and play using this guy, but the Switch Pro controller surprised me. I was mostly pissed off how much it cost, but I kind of see it now. There's this like nice textured plastic on the bottom grips here. It's a different kind of plastic from the overall Pro controller. I like the triggers. They're responsive and they make a nice little click when you click them. The buttons are raised, the main face buttons are raised just enough so you can kind of feel when you're actually pushing down on them. The analog sticks are really nice, they have a nice click to them, and they just are very responsive in general. I even like the D-pad more or less. It's just like a basic D-pad, but they did it right. I didn't really love the Wii U's Pro controller. That's why, again, I was like, okay, well this controller could be garbage. But it wasn't. It isn't. So much better than the Wii U Pro controller for sure. Alright guys, let's move on to something else. Let's move on to just features and software and things that I want to see on the Switch. Here's the thing. I booted this guy up for the first time and immediately thought, well, can I customize my wallpaper? I mean, PSP, PS Vita, pretty much the Sony handhelds and old consoles allowed you to have custom themes or custom wallpapers, right? Switch doesn't have that. For whatever reason, this guy doesn't have custom wallpapers. But yeah, so white and black isn't really enough for me. And it would be nice to kind of like either have a custom wallpaper that I throw on there or just have a nice universal theme that gets applied to all the menus. That would be cool. This is asking for a lot, but I know on PS4 there are certain themes and wallpapers that actually have their own music tracks associated with them. That would also be cool. The other thing I want to talk about is about the online that's coming in the next couple of months. So when I bought the Switch, I actually didn't realize that Nintendo was going to start making you pay for online. Granted, it's only $20 a year, but you know, it's still another service you have to pay for, and it's Nintendo. I have no idea how the online functions are going to work for Nintendo stuff. So the fact of the matter is you're going to start paying for online if you want to use it at all. It's $20 a year. Where is the chat app? Where is a messenger app? Where is some kind of social app where either I can have all my conversations in a nice strict layout, or where is there some kind of option to talk to people? Because I don't even know if the Switch has Bluetooth. I've looked extensively through the menus. I don't even know if this fucking thing has Bluetooth. So I don't understand the $20 a year. They have to implement some kind of social media, social app or something to make the online experience feel more, I don't know, like an online experience. It's one thing to play games with other people. It's another thing to actually communicate with other people, message back and forth, and it's just a different thing. So maybe that's something that's going to be announced soon, or maybe something that's going to be announced after the online subscription crap starts. But either way, this thing needs some kind of social media chat app, something like that. Speaking of apps, let's talk about YouTube. Or let's talk about, I don't know, Netflix maybe? This thing doesn't have any of that crap. I know you can watch YouTube, Twitch, Netflix, all that stuff on thousands of other devices. What difference does it make if it's on here, right? And my answer is, it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. I mean, this is a handheld, this is a portable device. At the end of the day, people are using it in handheld mode most of the time. I don't think it hurts the Switch in any way. I just don't understand why. If all these other devices can do it, why can't the Switch do it? Maybe Nintendo isn't playing nice with these other companies, or maybe it's vice versa. Whatever it is, it just is kind of silly that on launch, and even a year out, well, over a year now, that this thing doesn't have any other apps except for Hulu? What? So I'm not like shitting on Hulu, but I don't have a Hulu subscription. There are no YouTube or Twitch apps or anything like that. Maybe they're coming in the future. I don't really know. There are other means to watch these things, right? I just thought it would be a nice little thing because it's a portable device, and maybe no. Oh, okay. Sorry. Something else I want to talk about that I don't really understand isn't part of the Switch or part of the Nintendo ecosystem. Where are the achievements? Where are the trophies? Where are the things that you are given when you complete a certain task in a game? You get like a reward, an incentive to keep playing, like, oh yes, you picked up 50 barrels. Good job, here's a medal, here's a Nintendo medal. And then I'm trying to combine Nintendo and medal, it's not working. Some kind of achievement system or reward system to kind of incentivize people to either play games that get ported over to the Switch, or just, you know, keep playing the games for just completionist sake. So I don't understand why there hasn't been a system like that, especially if there is online coming to Switch. They're gonna start paying for an online component. It would be cool if you had achievements or rewards, and you can like have a profile when you go online, and people can see like, well, this guy has 50 Nintendo medals. Whoa! But there isn't a Nintendo achievement system yet. Hopefully it's coming. I still can't do it. Last thing I just want to talk about is the lack of a virtual console for the Switch. And I know Nintendo has said that the virtual console is being worked on currently. It's gonna be up and it's gonna be live. We just don't know when. And I thought about this recently. I think most of the reason why is because indie titles have been doing very well on the Switch. And if the virtual console becomes a thing, it's gonna take away from the indie titles. I mean, if you have like all these old classic Nintendo games just in a group on virtual console, and then you've got all these like new indie games that you don't really know you'll like, or if they're gonna be good, whatever, you might just wind up ditching the indies to go to virtual console. So I don't really know if that's the reasoning. Maybe it's an architecture thing. I honestly think it's because the indie titles are doing really well on the eShop, and if they put the virtual console on there, it's going to complicate a lot of things for these smaller publishers, these smaller developers. That's about it with this guy. Overall, I like it. I think that there are enough positives to owning a Switch and the Switch itself that kind of outweigh all the small little gripes I have with it. Nintendo still has a lot of features and functions that they could put on the Switch to make it even better. Maybe it's just a waiting game, who knows? The only thing that I'm concerned about are the games, but it seems like Nintendo is more or less putting out enough interesting titles. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting. So hopefully there'll be more Switch videos in the future, but until then, I will see you all very soon.